Are we good to go?
We're good to go. I think the more people are coming in, but I guess.
So it's for beginners. And the goal is to provide you with strategies and framework for prompting. So we'll give you a bit of theory. Then we're going to showcase some tools and techniques you can steal, and Jan will take over there. And finally, we'll give you some concrete experience. So at the end, like probably around the 45 minutes mark latest, we're going to have an exercise. We give you concrete experience improving your prompt. So starting with, so that's the agenda, introduction to prompt engineering, tools and demos, and then the workshop. Starting with prompt engineering. What is a prompt? So maybe we can ask around in the chat. I know some from few people that I spoke to before the workshop that it was not clear to everyone. So do some of you have some a definition of what is a prompt, or do some of you don't know what a prompt is and you came here to learn? Just so you can check in the chat briefly.
So we have Dave saying an instruction to AI.
Yeah.
A command. Claudia is a bit more forceful.
Claudia is very much into automation already. Okay, for the others, a bit too shy. A good request for the AI to provide something. Okay. So if we ask ChatGPT, here's what I asked earlier. The best way to figure things out, and maybe that's the first prompting hack. Nowadays, if I have a question, I'm going to just simply ask ChatGPT. So a prompt is an input or instruction that we give to AI to generate a specific output. It can be simple, so you can have like write a poem about the ocean, or it can be more complex. And the one actually that I provided is not so complex. So, and what I wrote there, the first question was already a prompt. That's basically whenever you interact, and that's promptastic. And we're going to see how we can improve those inputs. So that's all we have with AI to generate an output. There's no programming, there's just text. And prompt engineering, what we call prompt engineering, and which is a very a term that can be a bit intimidating because there's engineering in it. This is just the practice of figuring out how to give effective instructions to LLMs. That's it. Maybe we shouldn't call it prompt engineering, we should just call it writing clear instructions. The type of input we can provide to an LLM, this is not just text, so it starts with text. If you write to ChatGPT, you will provide text, but it doesn't stop there. You can also provide audio. You can provide images, and this is particularly relevant with models like ChatGPT 4o now that are multi-modal. So you're not limited to text. You can provide documents and so on and so forth. So that's all part of our prompt. Now, prompt engineering, if there's one slide of methodology, one point of methodology you should be aware of, and just maybe like that's the core lesson to remember, that's an iterative process. Can someone maybe guess what are the different steps? You have a suggestion on how you would go to improve your prompts? Same in the chat. I want to see if some people have an idea, like what could be the different steps of prompt engineering. So one of them is going to be, you're going to write the first prompt, but what else can we do? No one? Start simple and progressively refine. Yeah. Always question the output, evaluate the results. Yes, Piv, but Piv has had a look at the course, so Piv is cheating. All right, so step one, it starts with an idea. You have an idea.
It's funny.
For LLMs to, for an LLM to do something for you. Maybe you have a question or maybe you have a set of instructions. So like, hey, what if I figure out what a prompt is? I'm going to ask ChatGPT. All right, step two, you are going to write it in the prompt. From idea to formalizing your thoughts, typing them inside ChatGPT. Okay, then you get the results, which is the response that you are going to see on screen, generated by the LLM. And then the last step that most people are going to skip, I see many people stopping with the first prompt and the first result. You should analyze the results. You should first see if you're happy with the result. If it's great and first prompt, then good job. You have a well-crafted, clear instruction and initial prompt. Usually, it's a little bit disappointing at first. And so the last step, which closes the loop, is the analysis part. You're going to look at the result. You're going to ask yourself, where does this fall short? And it's going to generate another idea, this time not from ChatGPT, but in your head. And you are going to go again through the cycle. And where do you stop? You stop when you're happy with the results. So it's just that you write, you see the results, you are going to evaluate it, and after several loops, you will have a better prompt. So thankfully, there are people who have been looking at ways to improve prompts for us. I'm going to give you some tips. And there are three families or three ways three ways we can improve prompts. First, you have strategies. They are like general best practices, advice that you should apply in general. Then you have techniques. This is more if you want to shine with fancy vocabulary in the next dinner. Then you will be able to mention zero shot, few shot, chain of thought, and sound smart. And then you have frameworks for the lazy ones. If you want to skip the thinking and just have a template that you could apply and directionally will get you a better result, then we can use these. So strategies, general tactics and strategies that are proven to work. Techniques are more like methods with technical terms because we love them. And frameworks, ready to use templates. Don't think, just fill the template and you should get a better result. One thing on templates, which we are going to see, the main message of this session is this is the most important thing, and you should not, by no means, you should get out of this session with, oh, I learned a great template, I just use it, and then that's it. The most important slide is this one. Please stay for the rest. But the most important part is really to have this experimentation mindset and to refine our ideas, refine our prompts until we get what we want. But if we want to go faster, we can go through frameworks. All right, so starting with strategies, there are 6. They're not from me, they're from OpenAI's prompt engineering guide. So they are legit. Strategy number 1, writing clear instructions. Number 2 is to provide reference text. Number 3, if you're asking for something complicated, split the task at hand in multiple subtasks that are simple. 4, give the model time to think. And since they released this guide, they built a model, ChatGPT O1, that does it for you. That has these reasoning steps. It's interesting to see that the model providers, OpenAI, Claude, and so on, are working towards incorporating some of these best practices for you so you don't have to do it. 5, using external tools, and 6, test changes systematically. All right, so a couple of examples so that we get more concrete. Writing clear instructions. Instead of writing what you have here on the left, here are some meeting notes. You put some meeting notes, summarize the meeting notes. This is rather unspecific. It will get you a result, but it will vary vastly. While if you're interested in specific information about these meeting notes, the meeting attendees, what were the agreed next steps, and that you like your output short and sweet, then you should be a bit more specific about what you want. It's like a human who has never met you before, and you're giving it a task. This is very vague, and it can go in all directions. This is much, much more precise already. And this is a simple example. You can be much, much more precise, refine it further. So writing clear instructions, include details in your query to get more relevant answers. Number 2, Using delimiters. If some of you have looked into prompt frameworks or examples, you might have seen that there's some weird ways to write things. We introduce special characters. So either we have delimiters like this, so things that you will not see in plain English, in normal language. You never see 3 double quotes next to each other. So that really means separating. And what are we separating here? We are separating instructions from one side from context, from the article. And why do we do that? Because if it's just text from beginning to end, the LLM might not know where it stops and where it ends. So where your article begins, probably it will know from there, but it might miss the end of the article there and include this as well in the context to evaluate. We will see some examples. This is not the only way you can delimit. You can use XML tags, and actually depending on the model you use, if you use Claude, there's these things called XML tags that you can use. I will show an example later. So use delimiters to indicate distinct parts of the input. Next, this is part of also splitting tasks into multiple subtasks if they are complex. If I want to write a 1,500 blog post, I can just ask in one sentence and just give the title. But if we are breaking down the step that lead to writing this blog post, and we include that in the prompt, we will get a better result. And what's more, we'll also be able to see now the models are going to output the different steps and what it does in the different steps. And so if it misses the mark on step 1, you know already where things went wrong. While if you are just entering this, it's a black box. You have no way to audit. Next up, this is more on the formatting side. You should specify the format of your output. By default, it's going to generally return text. But if here in this case, I want to output specific properties, specific information from the text, I can just indicate this format and it will then yield this output more reliably. Specifying the format, we'll see this one of the key tips that we want to leverage. Another one, which goes very much hand in hand with the format, is if you want to is providing examples, not necessarily so that the ChatGPT or Claude understands better the task. Usually they already got it, but in order to enforce further a format. If we run this, create a definition for AI operations, if we run this inside an LLM, we can do this as an example. We will get a very long response. So create a definition of AI first operations. It is very open. And I would bet this is exactly. So you have key characteristics, you have other things. So I didn't specify anything at all. And so I get a long answer. What if we, on the other hand, provide an example, and that example is a 1-sentence definition? We will get a 1-sentence definition. It's another way to control the format. Another one that is very powerful if you have a task that requires a specific expertise, or you know that a specific expertise should yield better results, is to ask the model to adopt a persona. So instead of being ChatGPT, a general large language model, you can ask it to answer as, for instance, a world-class AI expert and a seasoned startup operator, and give the same definition. You will get a vastly different result, usually better. One tip, if you work in marketing, that's usually something you want to do. You're world-class copywriter, you're very good with words, you can convince people with catchy slogans. If you add that, you should see drastic improvements in the copy returned by these models. Strategy number 2, providing reference text. So here, we're back to the context. If we are asking a question to ChatGPT without any reference text, it will search the whole internet, or it will query its knowledge, and it's not going to look at a particular source because you haven't specified anything. What if we indicate that the answer should be provided by looking at a specific reference? It will look at this reference and answer based on that. And this is thanks to a property of large language models called in-context learning. It's able basically to read very fast the thing you gave it to, and then make it assimilate it and make it part of its own knowledge and prioritize that it should answer based off that. I'll go a bit faster for the rest. Splitting complex tasks into subtasks. Pretty clear that just like humans, if you have something complicated, writing a marketing plan for 9X with like very little instructions, we're not there yet in a situation where we can just give that and everything will go as planned or as expected. And so you want to break it down into separate steps. And here, if we are going through a conversation with multiple steps, we're going to maybe start with step 1, audit the result, and then move on to step 2 once we are happy with the outcome. Giving the model time to think. That's another thing. It was proven that by asking the model to think carefully about before providing its answer, that it will yield better results. So very interesting thing. And again, ChatGPT 01 and the next let's say the next frontier in some cases for large language models will be to incorporate this part of reasoning already in the model. And so you're going to, with 01, you wait a little bit longer to get the response, but it should be on the reasoning side a bit better. Couple more strategies, and I'll move on. Using external tools, we'll see an example of browsing capabilities. So you can now, I'll show that briefly. You can now use web browsing, and we'll see an example where this is entirely different. So providing this answer with this, an answer to this question with this enabled, it will first allow ChatGPT to browse the web, look for recent sources of information, and then provide its answer. And if it's toggled off, it's a completely different setting. And that's also the next frontier with all these models, is having additional tools that they will be able to grasp. And that already concludes on the first part. Next, on the techniques. Or first, if there are any questions on what I showed, we're going to provide example right after. So, but anything that was not clear on what I showcased so far or what we explained? All good? Pete, I
think all good.
All good?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, if you want to sound experts, there are things called prompting techniques. And through these techniques, there are different ways to evaluate model performance. And when we compare models, we start with 0 shot. So we give it as little context as possible, and we try to see how good it is. And then we provide few shots. We provide different techniques, and these are the ways you can compare how models perform. So for your general culture, 0 shot prompting, it refers to the technique where you don't provide any example. So here in this prompt, which I also have here, classify this feedback as either positive, neutral, or negative. We give the feedback. The session was very instructive and engaging, and we ask for the sentiment. There's no example here. There's no, we don't tell it like if they are positive adjectives, it's good. If the negative adjective is bad, that's 0 shot. And already for a lot of tasks, for many tasks, now 0 shot is enough, which is very good news. It means that for a lot of your regular tasks in ChatGPT or Claude or the next model, the results are already getting better without you having any effort, having made any effort to be clearer. Nevertheless, this is the most lazy and also the most likely to bring poor results. If you're having issues with 0 shot, then you next want to experiment with few shot, which is another like single shot of few shot, which is a fancy name for give an example first. Give an example of what good looks like, and then ask your question. So here is an example. We have Watpu is a small furry animal native to Tanzania. And here's an example of a sentence that uses the word Watpu. And then here's our prompt, or here's our instruction with Fadodo, which I don't know how to pronounce. And then we ask for the completion. By providing this initial example, you see that the sentence is also very short. And so that way you can control. And few short is you provide more examples. Chain of thought. This is where you are going to give. So this is breaking down complex tasks into different steps. I will need you to help to plan an introductory course on the topic for beginners who cannot code. So on artificial intelligence. Planning a whole course is a complex task. So we can break it down in probably more than 3 steps, but here in this case, for this example, and the outcome is the sequence. And as I mentioned, this is auditable. You can see first in the objectives, if there's anything missing, then you can move on to the learning blocks, or you can maybe prompt further to ask for some clarification or some adjustments. So breaking down things in multiple steps, this is chain of thought prompting. And then the last one, which really, I love the name for this one, because this is the way you're using ChatGPT on a regular basis. Prompt chaining. So whenever you have conversation and you ask a first question, you're going to use the outcome of the second one, and you're going to have a dynamic conversation to go through to get to your final result. This is prompt chaining. All right. Okay. And now the last part, before we move to some demos, are the frameworks. So what's a prompting framework? Once again, that's a template. It's a prompt structure. Instead of starting from scratch, you're going to take the structure, fill in the blanks, and it will follow some best practices. It's more like a checklist, so you don't forget important part of your instructions, so that these are clear. We're going to see 2 examples. And one outcome I would like everyone in this session to get away with is that at the very least, if you don't have time, if you can't do the best prompt, you can't refine as much as possible, at the very least, do yourself a favor and use RTF. At the very least, you're going to have, beyond the task, you're going to have RTF. So what is RTF? Role task format. If we take this example, act like a CEO coach with 30 years of experience in mentoring. That's the role. And if you remember, one of the strategies recommended by OpenAI in their prompt engineering guide, you want the model to adopt a persona. And so RTF is just saying, whenever you have a task, think about what kind of person would be best suited to perform this task, and just ask ChatGPT or the next LLM to embody this person just for the time of an answer. Next, we have the task itself. Give me a plan to improve my work-life balance as a founder. Okay, that's a vast program. In table format, this is the format. And I can guarantee you that if you don't specify this here at the end, you will get the list of bullet points. You will get a regular text, a paragraph. And just specifying that here, we get the output as a table. You will see in the workshop exercise that we actually we have a prompt where you can adjust the format, and it doesn't stop there. Here in table format, that is rather unspecific. So if we run this multiple times, you will it's very unlikely that you will get the same columns. So if you are interested in getting always the same columns of data, you know where to put it. You have to add it in the prompt. So in table format, the table should have the following columns, and then you list your columns. And if you do that, ChatGPT will output the same column on and on. So RTF is the bare minimum. This is an extra 30 seconds of work, but is already an improvement to any of the prompts you may have. Next, we have Reason. And then I invite you to Google, like search for prompting frameworks. Like prompting guides are the next, the new snake oil. There's even people charging for it. In general, this is just a checklist of things you should think about. So I think you shouldn't pay for it. There are lots of frameworks. This one's good. It has a little bit more variables than RTF. Reason stands for role, instructions, steps, end goal, and narrowing, also constraints, because RESEC is not as good as reason. And so the role, you are a world-class AI expert. So it's the persona once again. Instructions help me explain, and this is a course I wanted to prepare. You're going to help me explain a technical topic to non-technical people. Here are the steps. That's the end goal. And specifying an end goal is also a powerful way to make sure that the LLM understands what's the assignment. And the constraints. And usually when you start from a framework like this, the version 2, version 3, version 4, you're not going to touch so much this, but you're going to add things on the constraint side because the output will be too long the first time, or maybe the tone of voice is a bit cheesy, or the vocabulary used is a little bit too technical, and you're going to just add bullet points of things you don't want it to do. So that's for reason. That's what I had for a very basic introduction to prompt engineering. Let's just call it writing clear instructions to LLM so they output better results. And I'm going to hand over to Jan for some tools and demos where we're going to give you additional help so that you can also create prompts a bit faster.
All right, just setting up my screen sharing. One moment. Let me know when you can see this.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm just going to run through 3 demos to, I guess, put into practice a little bit of what Alex just presented. And then we're going to finish off with actually handing over the work to you with a little, let's say, demo or tutorial that you can follow along with. So starting with the first demo, and I want to show you a tool by Anthropic, and it's their prompt generator. So if I head over to my browser, so I saw we did a poll earlier about what are the, like, let's say, top chat products that people are using. By far, the most popular is ChatGPT. It was the same. I think it was about 80% of you are using ChatGPT. If you have not heard of Claude before, Claude is an alternative to ChatGPT. It has been developed by a company called Anthropic, and Anthropic are backed by Amazon. So just like OpenAI, who created ChatGPT, are backed by Microsoft, Anthropic is backed by Amazon, and they are making some really big improvements to their model. Now, one little Easter egg that it took us a while to find at 9X is not actually in this Claude.ai interface, but when we look at Anthropic's dashboard, so Anthropic, this dashboard that you're seeing here, is really a tool designed for developers, designed for engineers to basically build automated workflows and incorporate AI. And for whatever reason, they've decided to hide a very useful feature for developers, but we definitely think that business people should have access to it as well. And that is this generate a prompt feature. And so for this demo, what I want to show you is we have a bunch of made up customer feedback from a photo app. And basically, whenever someone cancels their subscription with this photo app, the made-up company iSnap is asking them to give a little bit of feedback about why they canceled their plan. And so we want to see if we can get AI to analyze this feedback and identify what the top issues are. So if I head over to this Anthropic, so console.anthropic.com, now please be aware that this is a paid platform. However, it is very, very cheap. I think the way it works is it's basically credit-based. So you would pay, like you have to connect your credit card and you add some credits to this account. I think we added $25 back in May. We use this very, very heavily, and we still have credit available at 9X. So especially if you're just using it for the generator prompt feature, it shouldn't be like, let's say, too painful cost-wise. So I'm going to click generate a prompt. And now what I'm going to do in here, I've got some pre-prepared. I'm just going to dump in what Alex mentioned before is a very poor one-shot prompt. So I'm just saying, analyze the feedback that customers gave when they canceled their subscription to our photo app. And here I'm just basically giving this prompt generator the overall task that I want to achieve. And let's see how it does. So here it's not basically generating an output yet, but it's generating a prompt that I could use in a much better way than that one-shot prompt that I added at the start. And if we go over this, what I'm actually going to do, since most of you are ChatGPT users, and we do this quite a lot as well, I'm actually going to copy this one over and head into ChatGPT and here prompt it with this. Maybe I didn't hit the copy correctly. 1 second. So let me copy this, head over to ChatGPT and paste this prompt. And so what we can see step by step is what it's done. So the first thing is you can see it's assigned a role. Is you're tasked with analyzing customer feedback received when users cancel their subscription. It's then adding these delimiters that Alex mentioned. It's then outlining the clear instructions about how the task should be performed. And lastly, so it's a quite like in-depth description about how it should happen. And lastly, it's saying how the analysis should be presented. So if I basically now go and here, I'm just going to replace this feedback data with that data from my spreadsheet. And let's go back into ChatGPT and just paste it in between these delimiters. And we can see very, like I would say already, like well-structured results in terms of how it has basically come to these findings, much better than that original just one-shot prompt saying, hey, please analyze this feedback. They might have given you a few sentences. Here we have very structured, like what are the biggest pain points that the customers of this photo app are facing, how many times it was mentioned in the feedback, some specific key points to point out, and the sample feedback. And all of this, me probably trying to write out this prompt would have taken a long time. We use this prompt generator quite a lot. So I would always recommend, if you're just getting into this or want to sort of have a cheat code way at getting best practices, this prompt generator by Anthropic is very, very useful. Were there any questions in the chat, Alex?
Let me check. Not the best with Zoom. What about the new chain of logic? We had a question on the chain of logic, but no, I don't think there are new questions regarding what you showed.
Okay, awesome. One other thing that I wanted to point out. So Alex mentioned before in these delimiters, and here are these like XML tags. This is a very specific feature of Anthropic because as I mentioned, it's mostly used by engineers, and engineers use this in like, let's say, automated flows so they can extract very easily whatever information is in between these tags. It doesn't look as nice, let's say in ChatGPT, but we can easily change that. So if I go back here to my prompt that I had before, I can actually edit this. So I'm going to click this little pencil, and now I can have another go at giving the same prompt to ChatGPT again. And now here on these recommendations and analysis, all I'm going to ask it to do, instead of presenting it now in these XML tags, I can just remove these. And what I'm going to do is add in what is known as Markdown. So this is something that ChatGPT likes to use a lot more. Basically, these two hashtags just represent a header, but not the main. If it was one hashtag, that would be the biggest header. 2 hashtag is the one below that, and 3 is the one below that, and so forth. And so now if I change this to recommendations, and we can see here the impact. So remember here, it's providing my analysis in these tags. If I update this prompt to use this, what's known as Markdown, and send this off, let's see how it changes this. And so now you can see it's added the header analysis and now added those secondary headers as it did before. The analysis has changed a little bit. That is one thing that like LLMs maybe still aren't the best. You will get some difference on the numbers, but just for you to get an understanding of how you can actually control the output structure. And if we look back at our recommendations here, that's also added the heading there. So I would say for whenever you're using like Claude, these XML are really good. When you're using ChatGPT, as Alex mentioned, you can either use these like triple quotes or using these markdowns to give the LLM headers to really guide the format that you want.
Looks ready to copy paste.
Exactly. Perfect. All right, so let's go now to the second demo, and that is ChatGPT memory. Now, I saw, so as I said, I think 80% of users are using ChatGPT. We did a secondary poll to see who's using the free and who's using the paid version. I think that was about 50-50. Here I am going to show something that is a paid feature, but just for you to know like whether this is worth the investment or not. So if I head back over to ChatGPT, I'm going to make a new chat. And what I did previously was actually on so at 9X, we have a paid ChatGPT account. It allows us to have access to the paid features. But I also have just a personal account that is free. You can see here, it's prompting me to upgrade the plan. When I asked just the free ChatGPT account, what is 9X? You can see it's spitting out some sort of a maths equation for what 9X might be in algebra. If I take that exact same prompt and put it into my paid account, so let me add this one and say, what is 9X? And we can see it's telling me 9X is your company specializing in providing AI and automation training for non-technical business professionals. What I want to point out here is ChatGPT in the paid plan has what is known as memory. It remembers what information you pass it. It remembers when you tell it that you think it did a good thing, when it had a good idea. When I give it a statement saying, hey, ChatGPT, we're about to start a YouTube channel, sometimes it will come and say, hey, I'm saving this to memory. And especially what that slide that Alex emphasized before on that prompting is an iterative process. If you have the free plan, you need to do that iterative process pretty much every time because it cannot remember anything. What's great here, as you saw, like this chat is a brand new chat. I asked it, what is 9X? I've already had some iterations with ChatGPT about my company's position, some of the things that we're doing. So by making the most of this memory feature, you're going to basically be using this iterative approach by default, because any decisions you previously made about how a certain output should be structured, or a decision that you've reached in your, like, let's say, collaboration with ChatGPT, that will be saved. And it is by default then an iterative process. In terms of managing your memory here, it is a little bit hidden. So if I go into the settings, I can actually go to personalization and access this memory feature. You can see this is turned on. And if there's ever a conversation that you have that maybe you don't want logged in the memory, you can see here currently, like, these are all the things, the memory items that ChatGPT has saved, and I can easily just delete the ones that I wouldn't want it to remember in future chats. And just to, I guess, hammer this point home even more, I'm going to put myself out there a little bit. If you are a paid ChatGPT user, this is something I would definitely recommend trying, is you can even prompt it saying, from all the interactions we had, please write a summary of my personality, highlighting the key personality traits you've identified. I'm a bit scared about what it's going to put out here. So here are some of the personality traits. In this case, it's probably being a little bit flattering, but don't worry, I'll be a bit harsher in a second. But you can see it's actually very interesting the way it comes up with, and it basically will quote examples from conversations we've had in the past. Once this has basically done, I can do a little bit more of a, let's say, aggressive post, and now ask it, what would you say are the areas that I need to improve on? And I think maybe members of the 9X team will probably definitely agree with these. So delegation and scaling, you seem highly involved in multiple aspects of your work, from content creation to course development and branding. While this reflects on your dedication, you might benefit from delegating tasks or automating processes. Alex, does that sound familiar at all?
I can delegate to AI. We'll talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah, so really cool, this memory feature. Basically, the way that these platforms are also competing, about how Claude and ChatGPT are competing, all of these prompt best practices that we've showed, they're trying to also bake that into the tools that they're offering. So really keep that in mind when selecting, like, or even trying to convince maybe your manager at work whether it's worth it to pay that $20-25 per person per month on having a dedicated account, because your results will just improve a lot more. Perfect. All right, if there's no questions, then we'll head over to the last demonstration. This one is basically really made to highlight the prompt chaining methodology that Alex mentioned. So again, we're going to be doing this in ChatGPT. So at 9X, like the scenario for this demo is at 9X, we're starting to communicate on a lot more different channels. We have the newsletter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and we feel like it might be a good time to actually set up like a brand style guide so that we can sort of like, let's say, harmonize our communication a little bit. Now, this is something that I've never done before. So I'm going to show you like a prompt chaining approach about how you could do this with prompt engineering and ChatGPT. So let me open up a new chat. And one other thing on the memory side, and I'll even can turn it on for this one, I'm going to make this one a temporary chat, which basically means that it doesn't have any influence from any previous memory. So just to really show you this is working on like a clean slate. So for my style guide, what I'm first going to ask is basically like asking the LLM to outline a little bit of the importance of a style guide. Why should we actually use it and why is it important? And I think this aspect is especially if you're tackling a topic that's quite new to you, you might have been asked to do something that you've never done before, rather than just telling ChatGPT to give you that output that you want. Actually doing some research yourself in the prompt to begin with is helpful. One, because you'll be able to understand the output a lot better and you're learning at the same time. So here at first, I'm asking it to explain the importance of a brand style guide, and it's starting to give me like the key benefits here. It'll take a little bit of time to process. So let's see some of the key ones is consistency across touch points, professionalism, credibility, enhancing brand recognition. So these are all pretty good. And now the long-term importance for brand growth. So now that we have this initial research about why a brand style guide is important, I can now ask a follow-up question or a follow-up prompt. And this is really that first step towards prompt chaining. So now that we understand why it's important, I want it to outline the key elements and structure of a brand style guide for a company in the edtech industry. So if you wanted to steal this later, you could actually just replace your industry in here. And here I'm asking it to list all the key components that should be included in this brand style guide framework. And so here it's saying we need an introduction with a mission and vision, the brand identity, some logo guidelines, a color palette, typography. And just to tee it up, what I'm going to do in a second, I'm basically going to ask AI to look at our website, and from the current point of view of our website, create this style guide. So from how we're currently communicating, how would you actually go and apply this style guide structure that you have just outlined here? And for that, there are some, because like the LLM currently, it's mostly text-based. So there are some points in this framework that I actually want to drop off. And this is another real big benefit of using this prompt chaining approach, because you're not just asking for the output. You can see, hey, if I right now want to create in text format this brand style guide, there's probably not much point asking about logo guidelines because that's going to be not very good in text. Same on the color palette. So I'm going to just ask now, do a little bit of refinement here in this step. And I'm going to say, keep only the elements in the brand style guide structure that refer to positioning and messaging, and basically remove any of the elements that are talking about visual assets. And so now it's going to give me that. We'll just wait for it to load. And this is what I would classify as like the initial research in a prompt. So right now I'm just basically getting it to outline, and also that the two of us, me and the AI, can basically agree on what the structure will be of this brand style guide that we have. Because here I'm just looking at the structure, and I can then very easily, like I did there, correct it and say, hey, include this or don't include this, before I actually go and tell it to do the research. So now that it's given me my beautiful structure of my brand style guide that we can use for 9X, I'm now going to ask it to look at our company website, like I said, and apply this. So here it is based on my company's website homepage, can you please reverse engineer our brand style guide according to the brand style guide structure you just defined? And here I'm just basically passing in. And so for anyone who hasn't seen it before, this is our website. This is what ChatGPT is currently reading and applying that style guide structure. So we can see here the purpose of the style guide is to ensure consistent communication that reflects 9X's mission to empower businesses through AI and automation. Our mission and vision is to help fast-growing companies supercharge their operations with no-code AI and automation. So we see here now we've got the brand positioning, the brand personality, giving examples about the different things that we're communicating on, our messaging framework. So this is all very good. But as I said, right now, all this has done is taken what we currently have on our website and put that into a style guide. And now I want to see if I can challenge this a little bit and see if there's any areas where we can improve. And for that, what I'm going to do is basically head to, like, let's say another EdTech what I would consider a leader in the space. So Reforge is a company from the US that offers a lot of courses around product management and growth marketing, and now also AI. So what I will get ChatGPT to do is, based on the website of a leading company in the edtech industry, go and do the same thing. And so now I'll have basically the 9X brand style guide as it currently sits, and also the brand style guide of a leader in our space. So here we can see the introduction. So the mission and vision of Reforge aims to bridge the gap between knowledge and application, providing actionable insights and frameworks to help professionals and team achieve significant business outcomes. Now I could like go through and take all the time to read this, but now that I've basically made sure that really in a structured way, ChatGPT has gone and done the thing that I wanted to for our brand and also for another brand, I can now give my final prompt and I can ask it to, can you compare our 9X brand style guide with that of the one of Reforge that you just did? And now notice here, it's very different to saying, compare our website with Reforge's website, which I could do in one prompt. By taking this chain of prompt methodology, I've really gone step by step and can create things and then ask it to just compare what it has created. And now we can find some opportunities. So right now on the introduction side, or maybe on the brand positioning, that 9X targets fast-growing companies. We could potentially expand our audience segmentation to include professionals in operational leadership roles. We could showcase case studies and testimonials. So this is what Reforge is doing better. Our brand personality, right now we're professional and approachable, emphasizing practical solutions, whereas Reforge is a bit more authoritative yet approachable, balancing thought leadership with accessibility. So now that I have this really awesome document, I can go away and basically keep working in this prompt of refining our brand guideline, and maybe from that then we make some future updates to our website. And it's still going as I explain that. Alex, are there any questions in the chat?
Not that I see. We have Jacob who said prompt training is beautiful. I would tend to agree.
It's really amazing. And then like with this, and that's why I want to hone back in on that memory part, is you actually like realize that you can really see ChatGPT learning and understanding the types of outcomes that you have. If now in a new chat, I would go and reference the brand style guide from Reforge, it wouldn't start from zero. It would probably actually go and really access the memory and retrieve our last conversation. Awesome. So I think with that, the demos are completed. Now it's time for anyone who's interested to go and do, we've got a few minutes left. So if people want to have a go at this, and we're happy to stay on a little bit longer. So Alex, you're sharing the...
shared the link already. Maybe I can either share the screen again or no.
Yeah, you want to share the screen?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
All right. You should be able to access it. There's one question from Chad. How much of that what is returned can you take as fact or actionable versus needing to question how reliable the output is? Excellent question, Chad. This may be one thing we omitted there that's very important. So especially in the exercise that Jan just went through, you have a source. You have the website from both companies, and having the possibility always to audit where the result came from, where that inference is made. In that case, something you would need to do. So I would ask the elements of branding that you mentioned are authoritative. Can you give me examples on the page? Or can you tell me which pages or which segments are leading you to that conclusion, so you can figure out? You should not take for face value what these systems return. It's a tool. It's not a colleague. It's a tool that generates output. Sometimes the output is good. Sometimes the output is not reliable, and you should be careful with taking for face value what the LLM is going to return. That said, there's been drastic improvement. So if you experiment with ChatGPT 3.5 versus Claude Sonnet 3.5 for the same prompts, or ChatGPT 4.0 or 0.1 for what it's worth, you will already see the leaps forward between last year and this year. So it's getting better, but you need to stay careful there. All right, so it's a very simple exercise we have here. All the instructions are here. The page is published online, so you can follow along. I'm just going to walk you through the different steps. The idea is to do something very similar to what Jan just showed, for something a bit simpler, where we have a document. You should be able to download right here. It's a report called "In 2025, AI won't just assist people; it will replace them." A little bit sensational title, but actually very good report. It's not so alarming than the title is. And it's a very long report, 20 to 30 pages. We don't have time to read it, so we want to summarize, and that's one of the key or core use cases of generative AI. You can take long chunks of text, very big documents, and summarize. And so in this exercise, we're going to try to summarize this document. And the first approach you can take is what you see here, is uploading the document and ask ChatGPT to summarize this document for you. So you can start right here. There's my, oops. I can go along and start ChatGPT. Find the document. Oh, where is it? Yeah. Desktop, most likely. Yes, exactly. All right. So we upload the document, summarize this document for me.
So this is the one shot, basically, or zero shot approach.
It's zero shots. I mean, there is that context, or there's a document you already, that all the context is in the document, but on what to do with the document, you're not very specific, and you get a summary. And I would say you would do the same last year, you would get a much worse result than that. So already the zero prompt, the zero shot prompt is already pretty good and gives you an overview. Like most of the time, it is good enough, I would say. Page. So that's zero shot. But what if you want to have a bit more control there? So the first thing, and that's linked to the comment from Chad here. What if this report is wrong? Could we maybe expand with web browsing? So I can say up. Actually, there's a mistake. This is what summarizes document for me. Summarize. So summarize the document for me. This time, browse the web. And we're going to enable one tool. So two things. First, we're going to give it additional instruction. I want you to look for information online. We're going to toggle this, search the web, and we run it again. And here you can see one tiny difference is we have some additional sources. And it's all taken from Winning by Design, which happens to be, we can see the sources right here. And there we have already, so perfect for Chad's question. We have not only a summary, but we have also more things to read here. So we can double check, and we can form our opinion, and we can say whether that claim here, efficiency challenges in GTM, are actually, well, we can explore this statement further. That's step two. We just added one tool to the mix. I think there's a typo in the. Okay, no, it's good. It's good. It's good. So that was this one. Step three, and this one is probably the one that I use most of the time, is I want to control the output format. These models tend to be quite verbose. They tend to write a lot, and sometimes you just want to get to the point. And so one thing we can do here is, so we have two prompts here. One, we're going to get a short summary because sometimes that's all we need. Go back to ChatGPT. It has a context of the past prompt, the conversation, so we don't need to do so much here. Summarize this document once again for me, this time in maximum 3 bullet points of 1 sentence each.
And Alex, a couple of questions while that one's running.
Yeah.
First of all, from Luca, who asked, is toggling web search button the same as telling it to browse the web in the prompt?
That's an excellent question. I am not certain. Because before that web search functionality, you had already the possibility to browse the web. What you needed to do is to prompt it to browse the web. Now, web search, since this button exists, you have more these kind of things. So you have like these links, and you have this additional tab here where you can explore the different pages. So it's a little bit like different take on Google search. I'll give you a quick summary and I give you the links that you can explore there. I am not sure, I have tested recently, I'm not sure you can do just browse the web with this turned off. Actually, we can test. Can you find...
It's something that it does seem like it's two different things, because before when we were using the Canvas feature, the Canvas feature doesn't work with search, but it still allows me to go on a specific website.
But from what I see here, it behaves a bit differently than the past feature, but maybe, So here I have this turned off, so I'm not sure. But yeah, anyways, like I find this a great improvement in terms of like to explore the results. Definitely. Okay, one more on the format. What if we want instead to have a table format? We can. Oh wait, is this not the? Did I publish the wrong workshop?
No, I checked the one you shared. I think maybe you just need to refresh the tab.
Okay, so it's an old tab. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
So what if we want? And that's something. If we work with structured data, we can, for instance, use CSV like this. To summarize this document once again for readability, this time I want a table listing each insight with 3 columns: the name, description, likelihood of realization. And now this time, so you see that if you specify the name of the columns, the fields, you will be able to control the output. And that's pretty, like if you're expecting for an analysis to always get the same format, and maybe you can also, by the way, you can change that and ask CSV export afterwards. You can control, it's the same information, but this time in a different format that you're able to take somewhere else and share with others. And just demonstrate it. Give me the CSV file for this table. This is something I think we'll do a dedicated workshop on working with files. Not for today, but just a quick demo here. If you, it's taking a bit more time because now we're generating a file, but it should output a CSV file, which if we open it, is going to contain this data. Last part of the and last step here on the prompting. Your turn to come up with your prompt. So here you have a quick summary of the different, let's say the main items you should include in your prompt. It should have a goal. It should have a role you ask the LM to adopt. It should have clear set of instructions. And if your task is complex, remember to divide it into multiple tasks. Then on the format, we just demonstrated that with a few additional instructions, you can really tweak the results. And if you are struggling still with the format, nothing beats providing one or multiple examples and counterexamples in order to get what you want. We'll leave you with the exercise. Happy to get your feedback also if some of you have some prompts to share later on. I have one last slide And
just before we get to that slide, Alex, one more question from Peter asking what causes hallucinations in LLMs, and that he sometimes has the situation where he'll do the exact same prompt, and in one case it'll be the desired outcome, and the next time it'll be something completely different. I know we do cover that in the course, but what have you any points on hallucinations?
Yes. So the way these models generate responses, they are just a text prediction algorithm. So when you're on WhatsApp or iMessage and you're typing with someone, and you see those 3 words that are displayed as suggestions for the next word to input. This is basically, very simplifying, but this is a much more advanced version of that exact same thing. It's trying to predict the next word, and while it can go in the direction that you want, it can go in a different direction. There are also parameters to like the temperature, for instance, that will determine whether the output will be more or less creative, more or less deterministic. So if you write John Fitzgerald, you will very most likely get Kennedy as next word. But you might, if you tweak the temperature and have a very crazy prompt, might get a different result there. So this is not these are not sources of knowledge, and maybe that's the key part there. This is not a source of knowledge. You have to verify. It generates text for you, but this is not a sentient being, and being aware that it just generates text. It tries to generate the next character and find the one that's best suited. It will fail eventually. And another thing is also the knowledge is based on. It will fail if it doesn't possess the knowledge to answer the question. And that brings us back to the whole point of this session is context. Your task, if you give a very, very short prompt, which is make a pitch deck for 9X. We're raising money and I want you to make a pitch deck for 9X. Well, it can go in all directions because of the little amount of context I provided it. And if it doesn't have memory about 9X, it's going to do a pitch deck about mathematical formulas. And so the way you can reduce hallucinations is by providing context and clear instructions. I hope this helps.